away.
Hi, everyone. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, wherever you're listening to your podcast from. You are now rocking with the three commoners, and we have an exciting guest with us today. Her name is Tope Tokan-Lawal. I've known her for like God, how long now?
2015.
2015. Oh my God, that's like 10 years. And we are super excited to have her here. It's been a long time coming, and we're happy to have you here, Tope. Any um brief words before I read out your extensive bio? So,
I'm happy to be here. I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
yeah, about like we're super happy that you're here. We can't even believe it. Like we're like, she actually decided to come and grace us with her presence.
Right.
Really?
You're right.
That
Yeah.
I'm more excited.
Anyways, so Tope Tokan-Lawal is a dual qualified lawyer with over 12 years experience in the US and Nigeria. She specializes in arbitration, litigation, corporate commercial law, corporate copyright, and family law. She has a Bachelor of Business Administration from the University of Texas, Arlington, and she has a Juris Doctorate from Baylor University and an LLM from the Northeastern University. With all these fancy degrees, it's of course not a surprise that she's a partner at Oshunti and Tokan Law, OTL Law, and she's the chair of the Tokan Foundation and the Child's Rights and Juvenile Justice Center. Um, Happy to have you, Tope.
To be here, speaking to you both.
Yeah, so it's honestly great to have you, and it's always fun to have another lawyer on the pod. I don't know. I always say I'm not a lawyer, but Shawan is a lawyer. I didn't go to law school, but I did the whole shebang, undergrad and so on. So it's always good to have another lawyer, one who's practicing as well, and using their experience and their qualifications to do really amazing things.
I wouldn't even say
To be here.
I don't even know if I'm a lawyer these days, but we
Um,
you don't know this, Tope. I do not practice law. I do law things from time to time, but I do not practice law. So you are the only practicing lawyer right here, even though we all went to Nigerian law school at some point. All three of us.
I
Right here.
didn't. I did
no,
not.
she's a law graduate, I think. That's what it is.
Yes.
I thought you did. What happened there?
I decided not to. I was like, man, I don't want to do law, so I'm not going.
But you did law undergrad.
Yeah, and an LLM.
Yeah. See, all three of us have LLMs, but one person is a lawyer and a partner in a law firm. And that's why we're talking to her here. So, Tope, who are you outside all those like fancy words I explain you? Like, who is Tope Tokan-Lawal in your own voice? What would you say?
I don't know. I guess I'm just a very passionate person. Yeah, I always had this idea that everyone should have an opportunity to have a great life. And I feel like I was quite privileged from a very young age, even though like circumstances happened where my father passed away, but we were lucky enough with my mom. She was able to get back up and support all of us. But growing up, I saw a lot of lack around us. Um, so yeah, it was always just always confusing how like kids were poor, people wanted to do things but they couldn't afford it, or they didn't have the opportunity. So my mom kind of mentioned that like when I was 5, I told her I wanted to be a lawyer to help people, which is crazy because I'm like 5-year-old, stuff like that. But yeah, that's what she tells me. Everyone that I've wanted to be a lawyer since I was 5, and I've done everything I wanted. I've done everything I needed to do to get here.
I'm very envious because when I was 5, I wanted to be an actor, a footballer, an astronaut. I wanted to be a lot of things. I had no focus.
I wanted to be a millionaire. Yeah.
Like, what is a millionaire to a child? Like, you just
It
have
just meant
money.
lots of money. Yeah, that's what that meant.
You're on your journey there, don't worry.
Yes.
Well, on that journey.
Amen. No. Yeah.
It's interesting because I wanted to be a teacher first. So, like, I was in love with my primary school teacher, Teacher Oge. I was absolutely in love with her. I thought she had the best life ever. So, I used to tell my siblings and my mom that I wanted to be a teacher. My siblings were like, no, teachers are poor. Teacher Oge does she have a car? And I was like, what?
But
And so my
Nigeria.
mom was like, after like 2, 3 weeks, I came back and I was like, you know what? I'll be a lawyer. And so I guess my siblings convinced me to
Mm.
change. Yes, I actually wanted to be a teacher, which I still do. I still want to teach.
Yeah. Nigerian parents, I think they're funny in that aspect. Like, especially back then, it was kind of a thing of how
And
will
my
you
siblings,
survive?
not
Oh,
my mom.
your
Like my mom was
siblings.
supportive. Yes, it was my older siblings. They were like, no, teachers are poor. I was like, what does that even mean?
Oh my gosh. And that's a sad reality actually in Nigeria. That even actually just globally, that teachers are not
I think it was
compensated.
that bad then. Because I mean, I felt like everyone made like almost the same salaries and little things. That's what I think. I'm not sure.
So how did you actually get into like? Because you did a BA, right, in
Yes.
for undergrad,
Yes.
and this was when. So did you always know you were gonna go after that, go and do your JD, or you were always like, let me do this
Yeah.
BA?
So I'm the youngest of my mom's kids. There's 6 of us. Her first 3 children were all born in Nigeria. All 6 of us were born in Nigeria. First 3 children went to Nigerian universities. And then during that period, I think it was 90s. No, no, yeah, late 90s, yeah, 2000 strike. So my brothers that were supposed to do maybe like 4 years, 5 years, ended up being like 7 years, 8 years. So when it came to like the fourth child, which was my sister, my mother was like, oh yeah, oh, everybody's leaving this country. So the last 3 children left. So when I moved to the US after secondary school, the US, you have to do a first degree before law school. That's why. So I always wanted to go to law school. So I just went ahead and went to get my BA in management because I've kind of been, I've always been interested in like business people. My parents, both of them are like self-employed business owners. So
Did you
yeah,
actually like work for a bit before going to law school, or you were just like,
yeah, I worked in uni, not like I worked.
yeah?
Right.
So like I went to uni full time and then I worked just to supplement income. So I was like a resident assistant. I worked at Starbucks.
Yeah, student job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
started jobs and then finished and then a few months later because I finished in December. I started in January and then finished in December. So exactly 4 years. Baylor, they have like quarterly system. So they resume like May, July. So I resumed in May. So like I had like a few months just to chill before law school started.
Yeah.
What was Baylor like in those days? Baylor is like known for like being like one of those schools that yeah.
Litigation and then boring. Like we basically have to be focused. They're like the nerdiest of the schools, one of the nerdiest of the schools. But like, so when I got to Baylor, they said there was this thing where people say Baylor is where fun goes to die.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically, you're here to study, study, study. Everybody like they had like the highest pass rates. I think one of the highest pass rates for the bar exam.
Mhm.
Your courses are just intense. You literally wake up, study, go to class, study, go to bed, wake up, study. Yeah, it was quite intense. And it wasn't so bad because it wasn't like we lived in the city. Like Waco, I feel like people don't know Waco to be honest.
Isn't Waco where all the crazy shit happened in the 80s?
Yes, when people join the Kool-Aid, I think that's what it's called.
Oh my
So
god.
yeah. So Waco is just like a small town. I feel like Baylor is probably like the reason why it developed over time. Baylor is very old. So yeah, but then the interesting thing about Waco is that you have like Dallas Fort Worth on one side, you have Austin on one side, and then you have Houston. So it's just like right in the middle of all these big cities, but you can come down just like focus, you know, like the weekdays, it's all about school, and then get out of town on the weekends. Yeah.
Nice.
So after Baylor, you at some point decided to move back to Nigeria, which is like a fascinating idea right now. Like if someone's like right now went to Baylor, for instance, has a Juris Doctor has a JD from Baylor, and the person wakes up and says, "Oh, I want to go back to Nigeria," people might like try and knock sense into the person. But
So the thing is, you have to think of my decision in that period. First
okay,
of all, when I went to the US, I always knew I wanted to come back home because even in all my applications, I wanted to help children. I wanted to advocate and do pro bono work as best as I could to assist children in need of like legal support and financial support. So I always knew I wanted to come back. I didn't know when exactly because some people said, oh, you might want to work in business, make some money, get some experience, and then go back. But you also have to remember that when I moved back was 2012, 2013. No, 2013. the economy it wasn't bad. It was good actually, and it looked like it was going to improve.
Yeah.
Yes. So if I had waited maybe a year or two after, I don't think I would have made this. I'm not sure. But during that period, it wasn't as bad. Like the dollar was still fine,
Mm-hmm.
the economy was still fine,
Mm-hmm.
everything was still looking upwards for the most part, I think.
I
So
that was kind of like everyone looks at it like, oh, the good old days. My God, it was just 2013.
And
I
that's,
know a lot of people that moved back
yeah.
in that period. Most of them have left now. So I'm like one of the few that stayed behind. But I know, like even in when I went to Nigeria law school back at one, I think we had like the highest number of people back at one. Everybody was moving back. Older people, younger people, everyone came
That's
back.
It
you
was,
already moved to, right?
so no, I moved back a bit after that. I think I moved back in, what was it, 16?
Oh,
So
even
yeah, after, yeah, so I moved back a bit after that. Yes, I know at that time, right? But I think it's such an interesting point that you bring up, Tope, because I remember seeing commentary about people, how a lot of people chose to move back at that time. And there were some regrets about that. And then some people, they're still doing well. They still love the fact that they moved back. I think that was a time where people saw a lot of like opportunity, hope and growth and things like that in terms of the economy in Nigeria. So I think, yeah, definitely. I think that's like such an interesting conversation as well, because back then I did not want to move back, but that was when everybody wanted to move back. Then I moved back, and then I think that's when people were like, kind of, okay, let's move out. And I think definitely the kind of the economy and the political situation affect how people decide to move back. But all in all, it was a good thing because now you're making impact in Nigeria. I feel like, which is God
I
works in
remember
mysterious ways.
saying when everyone, let's call it that 2011, 20, maybe, I don't know, whenever it tapped out range, when people were really moving back. And there was so much like excitement about like moving back to Lagos. I know people who left, I mean, not to like, people were leaving like their jobs at JP Morgan and Bank of America to take like VP
Yeah.
roles in like, banks in Nigeria and stuff. And then like they justify it by like saying, I remember my friend Clay telling me like this was his justification. His investment banking CEO gave him was like, if you make $1 million in Nigeria as your everything all together, like you're much better off making $1 million making $1 million in Nigeria than making $1 million in the US. Because like money just went way farther. Like we're talking about like I can't remember where interest rates were. Like fuel prices were not even.
Mm. The dollar was good. You could still travel out if you want to. You could still, yeah,
Yeah. Was it less than
So
that? Maybe 250 or something.
yeah, something like
you
that.
could, I mean, we can talk about like wax about all these things, but 2013, you could get plane tickets to Dubai for like 150K or something like that. Some really small amount. So
That's
then
like
yeah, Abuja was like 16 grand, I think.
Hmm.
we went to law school from Lagos. Round trip it would be like 30K, 31K, 32K.
Yeah, I'm
Exactly.
hearing some crazy prices at the moment for Abuja Lagos flights, and I'm shocked.
200, 150,000 naira. Yeah.
The last time I was in Nigeria, we went to the East for a friend's wedding and we spent almost 700,000 on flights. So
Like US flights. Yeah.
yeah, round trip. But I guess one of the flights was business class, but whatever. Still, it's ridiculous.
It does not make
Yeah.
sense.
Ridiculous
How
to think
many
about.
people?
Two people,
Oh,
350.
when you
Like
said we, I
imagine
was thinking maybe at
that.
least 5 people. 2 people.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Damn, what is
This
that?
is like that 350 grand then could take you to the US easily.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
Easily round trip in 2013. So it's so crazy how things come up have turned. But so you decided that okay, you were one of the returnees then. Nigeria
Yes.
was good.
Yeah. Unfortunately and unfortunately, yes.
Nigeria was good. Life was sweet. You returned when you came back. Like you were like, okay, yeah, this is the life. And then things started to kind of like, turn around in the 2016-ish time. I think around time we met. What like at some point, were there points where you were like, I think I need to go back. I can't do this country again or whatever. Was there ever a time like that?
Definitely, definitely. So I remember like I feel like the biggest one was like I think when I was moving back in 2013, I applied to law school online. So I filled out the form, all that. And then we got to Lagos. It was like, oh, law school starts in so and so days. And then we went to law school thinking, all right, I'll just show up. And then they're like, oh, you have to print out the thing that you filled out and then you go and manually type it in and go and meet everybody and submit it one by one. And I was like, what? So yes, it literally was like crash course in like
in Nigeria.
having to do all these things one by yes. Nigerian way, doing things Nigerian. Because I was like, wait, so why did I submit online? They're like, yeah, it's just for the system. And then you print it and go and physically submit.
It's just for the
Yeah,
system.
so yeah, so that's how it was. And then opening a bank account was a problem. Like I was just like, what's going on? So yeah, those little things were like, I don't know why I'm here, but I guess the reason that I moved back was the strongest thing because over time, like I said, when I finished law school, NYSC was a horrible experience. I won't lie, like it was just different.
Where
Yes,
did you join?
it was just I was first posted to Benin, sorry, Edo State. So I
Mm.
went to Edo for the first for camp, but then law students had to leave a week early. But those 2 weeks in camp was just oh my goodness.
Yeah, camp is
Waking
not.
up early, the marching and the uniforms.
It is
It
not.
was quite an experience, and then I relocated. After that, I did some work at a law firm in Lagos, and then uh, another law firm afterwards. So the law firm where I served, they were paying me 35K a month.
In Lagos.
And I was just like, yes. And I was just like, okay, maybe this is just an experience. So, experience. And then 9 months later, I decided to, they wanted me to stay. And then I decided to apply to other law firms.
They're going to give
And
you
they,
what? Okay, if you
and they
say
offered me 50,000 naira.
Oh,
And I looked and I was like, oh no, this is not an experience. This is actually reality.
like even back then, 50K was nothing, honestly. Yeah,
This was nothing.
yeah,
Like,
how are you
and
even
I was
supposed to 5K? Like, it was just like, well,
paid their lawyers about 70K in that
yeah.
firm, 80K. And it's crazy because, like, I don't want to say so many things, but the lawyers were very wealthy. They had nice cars, like, children went to expensive schools. But I don't know how they got ahead paying people that little. But I had applied to other law firms because I did very well in law school. You know, I finished with a 2 and I got an award in civil litigation. So I was just like, and then so when they gave me the 50K, I had to like check myself. I was like, wait, JD, all of this. Like, I'm serious. I had to be like, wait, no, I don't think this is me that they're offering this to. Like, I had to read it so many times, like, no way,
see me
this is
finish.
not me. Yes. And so, but I applied to other law firms and I got like a better offer. It wasn't exceptional, but it was good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, man, goodbye. So it was interesting because I didn't respond to that letter, the 50K offer. And I remember them refusing to pay me my last 35K, my last month. And
Like, come on.
1,000 naira, they didn't pay. My mom was like, don't worry, I'm going to make so many more 35,000 naira. And I was like, hey,
Hey,
man.
man, Abio, you take that prayer.
That's ridiculous that they didn't pay you out of like, because you were like, "We're gonna work."
I mean, to be honest, I have heard about like, back then around now, how low law firms were paying their lawyers like 70, 80K. And the amount of work lawyers do in Nigeria is just insane. So the pay is really not commensurate at all. It just doesn't like,
It was not like the hybrid system where you go to work some days. You went
mm,
to work
every day. Yeah. Because I used to work close to, I don't know if in Abuja, CAC.
Yes, yes,
I
I know.
used to work closer, so I used to see the lawyers going to like file incorporation articles and things like that, and they would just be there. And then there was a high court near there, so I used to see them, and I just used to look at them like I know I've heard how much they're paying you all. You people are really, 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 you're really,
Mhm.
really like doing a lot of work. God, because you could tell they were just like they were dealing with a lot, just being out in the hot sun, like having to
Yeah.
wait so long. It just wasn't like easy. So
Crazy.
yeah.
I remember like one of my friends, they were paying him like 25K in NYC. I was like, what the heck is that? Like,
Was
then
that a
no,
I
this
heard
was
that.
this was in,
Yeah.
he was working for like, I mean, I don't want to name names of like, a really top lawyer at the time who eventually became a governor. And
Thank
you
you for
think,
noting them.
As in, like, come on, no, we don't name names, but
but like maybe lawyers became governors too. But it's like you would think that this kind of person was well known at the time, like a senior person at the MBA. You would think that they would commit to at least pay some sort of conscious prevailing
Yeah.
25 grand for NYC. Maybe they are paying their actual lawyers 40,000. Granted, it's in Ibadan.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
I think
It's horrible.
I think they see it as, oh, you have to pay your dues and you have to I don't know, they see it as, oh, I did this, so you have to. I don't know what it is, but it's really not great. But I just wanted to segue a bit too. So you've had this experience in Nigeria, you've worked with this cheapskates, and you found another job, you worked with them as well, and then you decided, I want to start my own firm, right? So tell us more what that process was like, the challenges there, because I know starting something in Nigeria anywhere is challenging. So what was that like?
It was very challenging to be honest. So what had happened was when I was working full time till about 2020. So prior to that, I had some. So there was an issue with the law firm because I was called to buy in Texas a couple of years before I was called to buy in Nigeria. And so from day one, I kept telling these people, you pay me based on my Nigerian call. You pay me less than people that I'm the same age with, working the same amount of experience with. And their position was, oh, you're not called to buy. You use Nigerian call, not scoring call. But then obviously you hired me based on like my qualifications. I was supervising people that were probably like on my same call, but do you get my point? Like people that
Mhm.
we were supposed to be on the same level, quote and unquote, but I was reviewing their work, supervising them. So it was just crazy. So at the point I was just like, you know what, I'm just here to gain experience. When my time comes, I will leave. So what I decided, and then I had also started Tokan Foundation around 2018. So I've been doing a lot of pro bono work, advocacy work, and yeah, charity work before then. So even in law school, I was appointed the president of like a foundation because I just spoke about like what I wanted to do in my experience, and they're like, oh, president, and I was elected like on the spot in Nigerian law school. Yeah, so that was Barry Charles. So I had always done that in the background, and then with a full time job, there was so much I could do, because you have your full time job every day. So I was sort of limited to weekends. So at the point, I was like, you know what, my dream, I need to start working actively towards my dream. I need to go back to school to get my human rights, child advocacy, um, education because everything else had been like law or business, and then also transition into something that was more focused on the child rights, juvenile justice, advocacy work. So that's when I left in August 2020 for my LLM. So my LLM is in human rights and law and economic development. Then courses were also in juvenile advocacy, juvenile courts, education law, child welfare, and all that. And then at the end of the LLM, I was applying to different jobs, but I didn't want to apply to a Nigerian law firm because I didn't think there was no opportunity to have like juvenile justice work, child advocacy work there. So I was trying to apply to like all these international entities in Nigeria and abroad.
Yeah.
And then there was somebody I went to law school, so that was my law partner, Abayomi Oshuti. So he kind of reached out to me, he's like, look, I've been trying to get you to join me in my firm and work together. And I was like, this sounds like a good idea. At the time that he spoke to me was about December 2021, I think. Yes. So the idea became, I took the idea better than before because in the past I was always scared because I was like, oh, being self-employed, you don't know if money will come, you don't know if work will come, I don't know if I can handle it. But then at that period, I thought about it and I was like, look, I get to do the work the offline legal work, and I also get to do continuing Tokan Foundation, which had been going on for years then. And I get to manage everything together on my own time at my own pace. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, you know what, maybe that's what I should do. So we started we got registered. I agreed, and then we registered in January 2022. And yes, it was a struggle transitioning from where all you had to do was just do the work and get paid to looking for the work, doing the work, trying to get paid while you're doing that same cycle for something else, looking for another work, trying to get paid, doing the work, you know. So so it was very different. And then the setting of I had an idea of what I wanted our firm to look like, what it wanted to be. So I was very involved in the design, you know, the website, everything. So it was a lot of work just trying to set up the law firm to be what we wanted it to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned something about like finding work, chasing like finding clients and all that. I from the little I know that's kind of different in Nigeria, trying to get business and trying to network to get people to offer you contract or business or I'm going to represent people. What is that like in Nigeria? What's that and what is the main challenge I would say that you face just in Nigeria? Because I know some people there's the age factor. There's people that see they're like, this small girl or small boy, what do you know? Can you do this? Can you do that? Is that something that you face in terms of getting clients in Nigeria?
No, actually, I feel like, well, I think the easiest clients we've gotten were from referrals. So initially, when we started, we went to our network, basically people that we finished law school with. So a few of them had their own law firms or they had their own businesses. So the thing of talking to them, oh, we have a law firm. These are the services that we provide, basically litigation, arbitration, and we spoke to like a few of them. One of them had her own law firm that was entertainment law focused, but they didn't do any litigation. So after having a discussion with them, I was like, look, I have all these years of experience doing litigation and arbitration. And they were like, you know what, you're going to be our litigation firm. So they started giving us work from their clients. They will refer us to our clients. And once a client has worked with you for some time and then you come and recommend somebody else highly, I think they're more likely to accept that. So I feel like most of our work came from referrals because started with our network and then they introduced us to potential clients. Like few of them came from people that said, oh, we Googled you, we saw you online, or somebody said you did a contract for them and they mentioned your name, which is a referral. So honestly, to be honest, I think most were from referrals. And then once we had like the first set of referrals, it was them referring more people and then the same people that we worked with always wanting to come back to stay with us afterwards
So, I
because
mean,
of service.
one of the things we hear about with like Nigerians and service providers is like, I mean, even when I used to work in laws, we're always chasing, what's that thing we used to do back in the day, where we have to write the invoice thing, where you have to chase people for invoice payment. And that was,
Yes.
and that used to be a thing because like some people just don't want to pay for services, even though services have been rendered, or maybe they don't even have the money to pay. Is that a thing that you guys also have an issue with as a small firm, or this is not really a serious thing? 'Cause-
No, it's a serious thing, but it's interesting because I feel like me, I'm very like selfish with my time. If I have conversations with you, maybe I say, oh, it's the fee is so and so amount, and you're like, I can't pay it, and then you try to cut it down. I'm already like waking up my love partner like, hey, I'm ready to go home because you can always tell when a client will pay from the beginning. I don't, not always, but like sometimes you can. So when a client is, well, at least for the most part, if they're being honest, they come and they say, oh, this is too expensive, I can't afford this.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep pushing and pushing for them to try and accept what they can offer. They may be unlikely to pay even at the end of the day. So one thing we learned early on is yes, we're initially because we had to be honest, we're accepting underpaid jobs, and then we noticed that the reward was not there because you're
Yeah.
underpaid, and then the underpaid work is always the one where the client is more maybe likely to be ungrateful or talk down on you or something. So initially we had to accept it because we were desperate. We needed to set up the firm. We needed to have some credibility, some experience, and the money, we needed the money. But then over time we realized that, look, it's better to have one good job in 1 month or two good jobs in 1 month than to have like seven bad jobs in a month. So we started to cut our losses and accept that, look, you have a conversation with a client, they basically show you that they can't afford it, so they're not interested in moving forward. Don't push too much. Show yourself to be good. Like, even if, so for example, let's say the client wants to maybe buy a house or something, sometimes I'll be like, and when they mention things like, oh, they need maybe like a power of attorney, something simple, I'll be like, you know what, I'll do the power of attorney for free, but we won't be able to handle the actual work. And then you do something good and they think about it and they may come back, but typically we don't try to push them to pay when they make it clear that they cannot pay. We just
Even if
know that, look, the good paying clients will always come. Yeah. And they do, for the most parts. Yeah.
yeah, that's good. Because I mean, that's one of the things that we always hear. Maybe at least even when I was in Nigeria, it was always like, oh, chasing the have you chased this person for the fee? It was just always the thing. But it's
No,
good
but
to
let me just be strict about like you. If you don't pay, I don't start. Yeah.
No service,
So,
no
so
payment, no
we've
service.
been quite lucky, to be honest. For the most part, I think all our clients, not all, maybe like 99% do pay, to be honest, are paid.
you
Yeah.
guys have good clients. That's good to hear. And you mentioned that you guys do some entertainment law work, mostly based on referral. Oh, but litigation, you say.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
guys,
arbitration.
oh, and arbitration. What's that like? Because, like, I'll just be honest. Me and you have had this conversation like on the side a few times. I
Mm-hmm.
People don't really know about like the some people know about copyright now, like oh, music, sampling, all these things, copyrights, who owns the masters and things like that. But people don't know sometimes that people get sued over stuff like
Hmm.
this in Nigeria.
No, maybe they're just choosing to be clueless.
I think some
Maybe
They
people
don't.
I think
I
some
don't know
people
if
don't know because, like, if you look at just, I always go back to Afrobeat, but if you look at Afrobeat in its early days, right, like when we went to secondary school, there was a bit of sampling, and I think a lot of them didn't know that that was illegal. But back then, nobody was chasing us or listening to us outside of, let's say, West Africa or something. But now, you try that, you get sued. There is no, because now there are people like actively watching to see who's using their music. Afrobeat has more of a global exposure, right? So you have to be careful the way you sample. And then even artists in Nigeria now, if you sample their music, if you're a Nigerian artist, you sample their music, they will come for you, because I think people now know more about that. I think back then they just did not know. They just would think this is a nice beat, I would use it. And then people that know, talk about, like you rightly said, back then I feel like they could get away with it, so they would just kind of like, whatever, what can they do?
people get away with it now.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good question because
So what I mean, I feel like from my experience, it's not even the sampling that has been the biggest issue. It's the situation where you get a young and coming up and coming desperate producer to produce a song, and then you refuse to pay them, and you release the song, you make all your money, and you generally just be like, you know, F you, we don't care. And it happens a lot. So yeah. So yes, there's the sampling, but the one that is so prevalent that a lot of times people don't even realize is that
but how does
somebody
that
produced a song and the person that is singing it on the radio did not even pay the person that produced the song, and they got away with it because the person that produced it, the small guy that is
Oh my gosh.
hustling, but they can't they can't come and fight you because they don't want to be blacklisted in in the industry.
Mm,
and
that's
you obviously
crazy.
represent the small guy because you are.
I represent big people
Passionate
too.
about justice. You're passionate about
Yeah,
justice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess the point is that that's a thing that we hear. But like, what does the small guy? What can he do? Like in today of Nigeria, that's something people don't. Well, not when I say people, I'm talking about lay people like me who just listens to music. So I don't know what that person can do because I'm like before it
What they
what
can do.
like before it goes
So
to in my head, it's like oh, getting through the court system is such a hassle for that kind of person. Is it even worth their while? Nigerians like me or other people might think like, does it even work? Does the system work? Are there protections? But it sounds like it actually does because you do the work.
yes, yes. I think so. For me, the most important thing for anybody that's up and coming, document. If you created the beats, have it on record that these are the dates that you created the beats. do a video from the background showing you listening to the beats and dancing with people, like maybe one of just to document that, look, this is the beats I created and this person released it maybe 6 months later, they got it from me and didn't pay, you know? Because if you don't document and prove that you created it, they can also try and lie and say, oh, I was the one that made the beats, I produced it, and then they release it, and then you don't have the proof.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, in my experience, because when we get this kind of like instructions from a client and say, oh, I created this, or I worked on this, and then somebody took it and they paid, or they took it, they paid, but then they are claiming more ownership, we immediately file a lawsuit, but then we also apply for injunction. So there's always the interim injunction. And one thing that the courts always say in their order is they believe, like they saw the evidence in front of them and they believe the evidence showing that the person, the applicant, owns the copyrights. Do you understand? So even if you don't have a contract, and that's why I didn't say do a contract, because a lot of times you're up and coming, you give contract to the big man, and then the person's like, I don't understand. Are you mad? You
Seriously.
don't need a contract. That's the thing. So me, I'm not an entertainment lawyer. I'm a dispute resolution lawyer. What I work with is proof. My favorite cases are the cases where a client sends me like 47 pages or 47 gigabytes of WhatsApp chats and messages and text messages and recordings and audio recordings. I'm listening all day and reading all day and just documenting the case. Those things are admissible in court. Those things are evidence, you know? So I'm not saying you don't need a contract, but I believe that contract is in a dramatic step. The entertainment lawyers, they're big on, oh, you must do contract, you must sign. Me, as a litigator, I know from experience that without the contract, you will prove your case and you will succeed.
Yeah.
So document the production of the song. Document when the musician is in the studio with you and you're like, hey, my guy. They don't know you're documenting, but document it to show that this person was here and they listen to the song. Because that's what it is. You're showing that you created something that was different. It was put on a medium that could be conveyed, and then the other person had a chance to have access to it, and they took it without your authorization.
Hmm. And that happens quite a bit, it sounds like.
Apparently, no.
But I
I've
mean,
seen.
what other interesting like stuff happens like in entertainment that people you see them and you're like, oh my god, you can't believe that people are moving shady like this.
It's a lot of things. It's mostly just like the ownership and the money. When it comes to money, maybe claiming ownership for something that's not yours, or even if you sign a contract and you accept that, okay, yes, it's owned by both of us, the money starts coming and you refuse to remit their profit share
Is this
or
like
any.
record label? Because like sometimes we see stuff like, oh, we hear stuff like, oh, this person is fighting his record label, and he now releases a statement that, oh, my record label, they have been oppressing me. In fact, now I'm owing them money. Oh, they've stolen all my life work. And it's just different
Come
stories
on.
like that.
God.
But all these things are like business arrangements, to be honest. So I mean, you have to hear all sides of the story, because the record label sometimes they will sign you and then they will give you like an advance. They will produce the songs, they'll pay for studio sessions, they'll pay for training sessions and all that. And then maybe they don't explain to you, because another issue with all these cases that I raised is that the record label was not transparent with their clients, with the musician. But if they had been more transparent, even the musician would like be like, you people are even trying for me. Oh. But if you're not transparent, if you're not open with them, be like, look, today I spent 500,000, tomorrow, those sort of communication. Maybe this kind of situation where people leave record labels may be less unlikely. But there should be at least some transparency in working with your clients, and just letting them know, look, this is the investment we're making for you. And then also, I feel like agreements should be a bit more reasonable, because sometimes you hear, oh, the record label owns 100% of the songs that you
Mm.
release for 5 years. And I'm like,
And you just be confused, like, like what kind of exploitation is that? Yeah, that's absolutely.
When, when all these record label fights get to the courts, is it as hilarious to us as
so hilarious. So when you're inside it and you're reading, and you're just like, what? It's not hilarious. So maybe
I just
On
because it's
social
like
media, it's just something else.
this kind of slavery contract.
Mm,
The
yeah.
people go like, oh my god, like, oh, why did you do this?
I mean, desperation, when you're desperate.
so the thing is, it's easy to laugh, but think about us when we were working for this law firm and collecting 35K. These lawyers were making millions of naira, So we didn't even know. So it was same thing. It was
Yeah.
easy for us, but at least, unlike these musicians, they were seeing the money coming in. We apparently the place I was working where they're making money, the guys sometimes will collect $70,000, in transactions and pay the lawyers 50,000 naira. So yes, we were in the same situation, but we didn't know. But with these record labels, at least good for the musicians fighting for their rights. At least if
Okay.
if they're right,
It's more
yeah.
interesting, like the entertainment. Like it sounds to me like there's just because of the growth of this sector, like the legal space has also really, really grown. Like
Yes,
the
it really has, it really has.
and I'm like when I talk to you and other people, I'm like, oh my god, stuff like this is happening. I had no idea.
Mm.
No, and it hasn't been just like an easy trajectory. So when you try and read up on like the history of copyright and intellectual property protection in Nigeria, you see a lot of figures that have fought, like lawyers, non-lawyers that have fought for protections over the years, and even the federal ministry, state ministry, they work together over time. Because the things that we saw as kids, all those fake movies and fake songs, and we don't see them as much now because there were agencies and individuals that came out and fought against it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a slow process, but there has been a lot of progress. And then, we had like the Copyright Act from 1970, and it was recently, amended in 2022, and that was like how many decades of fighting back and forth with different ministries, ministers, presidents to get the Copyright Act that we have today and all the protections that we have in place now. So yeah, it hasn't. I mean, it's increasing, which is very good to be honest. It's a welcome development, and it's good for the creatives in the industry because you want people to be more creative because it helps the community, it helps with, the economy in so many
Yeah,
ways.
yeah, and it encourages people to, create more and
Exactly.
not be worried that they won't get
What's the
any
point?
reward.
It's a,
Yeah,
yeah,
so yeah,
yeah.
that's
And yes, I shout out to the lawyers because I've done that in the past where they take some work pro bono just to help the creatives for the most part. So yeah,
yeah,
Mhm.
it's very
That's the thing.
important.
How do you like? Do they come meet you? Like you feel like, oh, like, because in my mind, some of these entertainers, they're you're surprised like when these things happen, how do they even know the right lawyers to go meet? It's referrals again, right?
yeah, and then lawyers that put themselves out there. So I've been told that, so for example, a lot of lawyers are very loud and vocal on social media. I'm sure they get a lot of clients and people that reach out to them for questions. So I think it's just based on knowledge. You go online, you research, figure out lawyers, and it's not that difficult to figure out like people's experiences because everybody's on LinkedIn writing about I am pleased to announce I'm looking to announce. So just read all the announcements
Funny.
and see the one that applies to you.
I mean the lawyers are going on LinkedIn.
Yeah, problem.
You would go there. You even go to MBA website and start searching. Yeah.
Let's pivot. Let's pivot a bit to your, I guess the projects that are close to your heart, which is like Tokan Foundation and
JJC.
sorry, what'd you say?
CRJJC, Child Rights and Juvenile Justice Center.
Yeah, so let's pivot to that. So what are those what is the Child Rights and Juvenile Justice Center and what's Tokan Foundation from a broad level? Like what are you guys about? What you guys do for those who
Mhm.
don't know about it?
All right. So Token Foundation, we're a registered charity and we provide educational, social, and wellness support to children who are vulnerable in society. Basically, we start with educational support, and then looking at educational support is not just providing scholarships. Our scholarships are not what they say, they're not grade based. So like even if you do well, if you do yeah, it's not based on that. In fact, even if you fail and we find out that you're failing, we're getting you lesson teachers, we're getting you after school lessons, we're trying to make sure that you can adequately compete with your classmates. We're making sure that you have school shoes. Because a lot of times, so we work closely with these kids over the years. So once you become a beneficiary, you're always a beneficiary for the most part. So when we speak to these children, it's, oh, and some point I couldn't go to school yesterday because my shoe is not good. Oh, my bag is not good. So we make sure they have everything they need to adequately compete in the society and in school.
Okay, so
So that's Tokan Foundation. Then Child Rights and Juvenile Justice Center. So what happened is, it was like a, how do I say, an organic transition, because after law school, so I mentioned that in law school, I was president of the foundation, so we worked with kids, and then that was in Abuja. So I moved to Lagos, and when I came to Lagos, I was like, look, I want to, this is what I want to continue doing. So I was working, but I felt like I need to find a place to start doing the charitable work and continue what I'd done. So we found, like, I got a group of my friends from law school also. So we found like an orphanage where we were assisting the kids with educational support, so helping them with after school supplies. I saw after school less homework and assignments and things like that. And then over time, these kids became involved with the law. So what happened is, maybe they got in trouble in the center instead of the, like, so in the orphanages. So instead of like the principals and the matrons to deal with it internally, they referred them to like children's correctional centers. So it was a thing of where I came one weekend to work with the kids. Oh, this person, the other kids were like, oh, this person, and this person, and this person, they took them to prison, and I was like, that's not possible. So yeah, so when I started investigating, it turned out that they had been taken to the correctional center for children in Oregon, that's for boys. And so I went there, found out about this, shocked, because I'd never heard about it. I didn't know what it was. Spoke to the social workers. They were very welcoming, because the kids saw me. They were like, Auntie Tope. So they were like, oh, they know you? Ah, you're visiting them? And I'm like, yeah, because they were orphans. You get, because they were in the orphanage, so they didn't have family or anyone that would have come to visit them. And so I was working with these children over there. And then social workers advising me, like, oh, you can follow them to God. And you can say this. And if you say you can support them, then they will release them to another. They have open centers for children. Lagos State has open centers. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to magistrate court, was also family courts, listening in and learning, and then saying, okay, look, I have a foundation, will sponsor these children if you release them and pay their fees. Even though they can't go back to the orphanage, Lagos State has another orphanage. And so that was how it transitioned into, yes, we're providing educational support, but I also started providing legal support. And in 2023, so 2022 actually, 2022, it was finally decided to register after I helped like get a few kids released from these correctional centers to either orphanages or back to their families. It was then realizing that, look, I also have to formally register a center for kids. So I was inspired because during my LLM, I interned with Center for Law and Education. They also advocated for children, and I also worked with like a juvenile judge. So I was inspired. And their work. So the juvenile judge had like a child justice center or something like that. So the name was inspired by these two places where I interned and worked. So it was the Child Rights and Juvenile Justice Center. We provide pro bono legal advocacy for children in need, basically juveniles and children.
That's actually so interesting. And as you were just telling us about the work, I realized that I was just realizing, oh my God, this is something we really need in Nigeria because there are just so many vulnerable children. So my question to you would be, so to what age or level in life do your foundations or your organizations follow the children? So for example, with Tokan Foundation, how do you follow them till they go off to university after that before and when can you start working with children as well? So at what age do you usually see these children being like having to needing that support that you offer to them as well?
Oh, okay. So it's interesting. Tokan Foundation was registered in 2018. The kids that we started working with at that time, they were about 10, 11, 12. So they're still young. Maybe about two of them are like 19, 20 now. But we still stayed with them. What basically, using our example, we started with them very young. We stayed with them through the primary school, secondary school. But another thing that happens for these children that are justice involved is that the the state does not have proper facilities for education in all these centers. So, for example, the few children that were taken, so when they were in the orphanage, the orphanage had a lot of sponsorship for these children. So most all the kids in that orphanage, they went to private schools. They had individual sponsors. There was an orphanage on the island, but then they were now sent to the Children's Correctional Center in Oregon. The center only has a primary school facility, so I think a few of them were like maybe just one, just two at the time. So they basically had to be taking primary six classes all over again. So that's cutting 2 years out of their life. So when we tried to advocate for them to be released, when they were released, we tried to speak to the schools. Some of them allowed them to start just two, because the default start just three. So my point is that even though we've worked with them since 2018 and they should be in university by now. The oldest ones are actually in SS3 preparing for YX at the moment.
Okay.
The interesting thing is, but there are two girls that started university. So we have first two beneficiaries, two girls that started university last November. So they both in last year. So we're still with them, to be honest, because the girls are 16 and 17, which they are underage. They're still young. The boys are 19, 20, but they're in SS3 because so we're using, I guess, age, they're still young, below 18, and more education, they're still in secondary school. But the plan is to continue to support them even through university. But that is basically based on sponsorship funding. So for the girls, we're very lucky. At the time that we realized that they were getting to university, we also started reaching out to people asking for more funds. Oh, look, we have children that we sponsor university. And we're able to raise enough to cover their fees in addition to all our primary school and secondary school beneficiaries.
So I'm more interested in the justice system, more like, I'm trying to say how I can put this. So we have these kids, they're in orphanages or in correctional centers, and it sounds like if there are no organizations like yours, some of them could be going through the justice system without any assistance or anything, and that's the state of play generally, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, so that's what I was doing. Like I said, the kids were taken there, and I started learning about the system. And you hear about children that have been there for 2, 3 years. So I know that for some magistrates they are quite good. Prosecution does not present their case,
So
then they strike up.
it's not, yeah, so I imagine like the prosecution obviously is going to be there and there's a judge, but like there is no like there are no institutions generally that's like providing defense for those children,
Legal
except
representation, right?
there's
No,
no
there's the Ministry of Youth and Social Development. They, to the most to the to the best of their ability, they do work with these children. There's also the Family and Social Welfare Office that they have lawyers that represent these children. And I'm not trying to
no,
talk
I'm
down on it.
just trying to understand what the
I've had situations where, because what happens is, because I've been doing this with the center since 2020, I've gotten to a point where the social workers actually call me, lawyer, talk where we have a child that's been here for 6 months, their parents cannot pay, and they're just wasting their time. The Family and Social Welfare Office is, maybe the lawyer is not even really doing the work well. And I'm just like, you know what, they give me the date, give me the name of the judge. I speak to them, then I call my interview the child. What do you need? Let them know that, okay, I'm taking over the case, and then proceed. Yeah.
yeah, so it's the usual story of like the state is hampered to like provide representation for the children,
Yes.
and
So I guess I have more children than
So they can
individuals.
handle.
Yeah.
Okay.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
And then that's where you guys come in, provide advocacy and representation, and obviously step in with the support. What is like the children themselves, like what is their like I want to say like mental shape when they states when you find these children who are like just going through this issue, they've been kicked out of an orphanage or whatever.
So let me tell you something. So I remember the first time, like I said, I walked into the correctional center because I was looking for these children and I was like, wait, you're not in the orphanage, where are you? And I remember one of them, he had been in the system because he had like abusive parents and he was separated from his parents from birth. Not from birth, from a young age, him and his siblings. So he was taken there. So it was a thing of he was already going through like trauma of losing family, having to be in the orphanage, and then getting in trouble. And then the first thing they do is carry you to a children's prison. And so he said, and so when just time I came here, I wanted to kill myself because the woman was talking to me anyhow, and then they brought me here, and I just thought I just want to kill myself because nobody cares about me. And I was like, oh my god! And I remember crying, and the officer was like, Ma, why are you crying? And I was like, why was I crying? Like, what
I
the
would
hell?
probably
I was
cry
like,
as well. Yeah.
so yeah, so that's how these children feel. But then the beauty of it is that what I've seen, like the effect of my involvement and the foundation's involvement is crazy. Because even the social workers will say the kids go from that home not having somebody that's been in their life consistently over time, or situations where they will maybe reach out to a social worker or somebody and say that my shoe has torn, and the person saying, hey, what should I do? I don't have the money. Like, who cares? You get of them going to court every time and the magistrate saying whatever, and nobody's allowing them to talk, to having us, because now it's gotten to the point where I feel like all the children know my number by heart. But I get calls from random numbers every day. And to talk where one of your boys wants to talk to you, one of the girls wants to talk to you. Oh, we need this one. We're doing projects. We have assignments. And then I'm like, okay, fine. The foundation will pay. And we immediately do it. And so the teachers say the self-confidence, the boost of their well-being is there because being able to reach out to somebody and say, look, I need this, and having that provided for you. The face of the kids when I show up to court, because I know initially there was some kids would be like, "Oh, we had a lawyer. The lawyer does not come every time." And then I walk in because I'm always in court on time, or even before the kids, and then they show up. I don't know how many times I will turn back, the child will be walking in and they'll just start smiling. And I'm like, no, they're in trouble, no, don't be smiling. But they look so happy. And I'm serious. And I'm like, and they're like, and Tope, thank you for coming. Thank you. That I know you always come. And I'm like, because even their parents will be calling me, Ma, are you going to be here? And I'm like, once I say I'll be here, I'll be here. So maybe once or twice they ask me after a while. And even the social worker says, and Tope, once I get a lawyer, Tope says she's coming. So Antitope, I guess, is the way I'm referring to my teachers, and then lawyer Tope is the way I'm referring to my legal side. So it's interesting. The self-esteem boost, the behavior of the kids, even the schools, they say these children are not the children that we met 3 years ago. I get that a lot. That they did not even know how to behave, and now they know they act so well. They know that somebody is there providing for them. If something happens, they'll say, hey, "Let me call my auntie. My auntie will pay." Those kind of things. So it reminds me of my childhood because, like I said, my mom was kind of person that like I will call. I was a boarding school. I will call and say, "Mommy, there's a excursion. I want to go, or we need to pay for this." I should just send somebody because no bank now. The person will go to bank, withdraw money, bring cash to the school, pay. So that was my own life as a child, and I feel like that's what we try to do for these children because it's beyond paying for their school fees.
Yeah.
I feel like for us, school fees is even like the cheapest of what we do for each of these children because when you start paying for lessons, when you start paying for giving them daily stipends, so they get pocket money, new shoes, it costs way more than school fees. So yeah,
Mhm. This is while they're in the correctional facilities or just outside it as well.
the open centers. So the correctional facilities, they have. Oh yeah. So the correctional facilities, they have the educational facilities, like I said, but it's up to a certain level. That's primary school level. Well, we had discussions with the girls center in India and boys center too. So we pay lesson teachers that are secondary school teachers. So we pay secondary school teachers so that instead of taking primary schools over and over again, they can do the GS1, GS2 equivalent classes. And then even when they are released, they can actually go back and not lose so many years. Do you guys?
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
state of those facilities? I mean, for those who haven't listened, I mean, I used to live in Ikeja. Me and you have gone to one of them, but like, and that's the only one I've been to. But like, what's it like for like children in those correctional facilities with or without you? Like, what's their life like? It's like I don't know. It's not.
So
I mean,
there's a lot of foundations. So the interesting thing is there's a lot of foundations that help these children, but I don't want to be proud and say that unlike them, we stick to the same kids. So what I know is from experience is I go to each of the centers regularly. So every weekend I'm there. We are working with the kids. The kids call us every day. But what I know with other foundations is maybe they come, they donate, do a big donation, they do a party, and then they leave. You get, but but
ongoing support.
yes, so we stay around and we're consistent. So that's why even the social workers make a comment. So sometimes when I'm there, and there's like there's a group that comes to donate or talk to the kids. I'll be like, look at that woman, oh, that's their mommy, oh. You're helping them now, but she's the one that they always call, and because she's consistent in their life. She has even been here before I came because they rotate them every few years. So I've been working with these kids longer than their own social workers in those centers, which is, yeah.
So what just this is I think just out of curiosity, what kind of behavior would a child into the correctional facilities? Like, is it serious? Is it criminal behavior? I'm just curious to see what kind of is it something that maybe, I don't know, because they don't have someone to support them, then they end up there, so what kind of behavior usually gets them in?
So under the laws, we have like the child's right law of each state. It was formerly like the Children and Young People's Laws, which was amended in line with like the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child. So under these laws, there are three ways that a child can come in contact with the law. That's basically contact. So there's children in need of care and protection. So there was an interesting way a child put it. He said, "My mommy sued me." Basically, the child is stubborn. The mother is trying to, raise him, but he's not listening. He's running away a lot. The parents can report the child to the social welfare office, and the child will be placed. I'm sorry, that's not in need of care and protection. I'm mixing it up. So a child in need of care and protection is the parents cannot afford to care for the child. A lot of times it's maybe children that are found during school hours, selling or on the streets and stuff. So they're in need of care and protection. I'm sorry?
Does that happen often? Like,
A good number of children that were taken from the streets because they were seen selling and trading. So they are children in need of care and protection. And the second one, which I mistakenly said earlier, was children beyond parental control. So basically, their parents are unable to properly direct them. The children don't listen, so the parents can report them and they will be put in the system. And then the third one is in conflict with the law. So in conflict with the law is um, basically saying the children broke the law. Okay, so we don't. The children are not criminals. We don't refer to them as defendants. We don't refer to them as guilty criminals. So we say they're in conflict with the law. So maybe a child is caught stealing or taking something or fighting, and they also commit, sexual offenses, non-sexual offenses, serious and non-serious offenses. So yeah, so that's the three broad range, which is in conflict with that a child can be in contact with the law.
so when the child needs care, at that point they take them to the centers, and the state basically assumes responsibility for them. And
Basically, those ones they then communicate with the family to give them an opportunity to rectify. So if it's that you lost your job, try and find a job to be able to provide. They'll continue to investigate your home and
but
see if it
Nigeria is tough, and it's understood that Nigeria is tough, and it's understood that that can take time or whatever.
Yeah, so they do every 6 months, they review it, the parents come, say, okay, I've gotten a job, or they can stay with my auntie has money, those sort of things. Yes.
Mhm. But still, those type of children, those children, you guys still support them. You're not
All the children, all the
yeah,
symptoms, yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
And then the children who are in conflict with the law, they're there for like a short period, like for like the
Nature of the offense. So typically, if it's like a minor offense,
period. It's not like you're gonna be forever. You're not there
no,
forever.
yes, yeah. So they're in the closed center. So there are two closed centers. There's the Special Correctional Center for boys in Oregon, and then the Special Correctional Center for girls in Nigeria. So those ones in conflict with the law, they stay there. So if it's a minor offense, it's a short period. Or a lot of times, just the way we have our waiting trials, we have for children. So a lot of times I've had situations where I go to court once or twice and the matter is struck out. So last week now, a social worker was calling me. She said, "Oh, Ma, don't forget that matter is today," and I have to remind her that no, it's actually next week Tuesday. We've been awaiting trial, prosecution is wasting time, and we're going to again reiterate that this matter needs to be struck out because she has been awaiting trial for over a year.
Yeah.
So those sort of cases, yeah.
I'm very curious. What's the like? Are there many like? Do you think the centers, the correctional centers, are like over full or they're like underused? What's your own view of it? Is it like
I think it might actually be underused, to be honest. So for the centers, yeah.
that's good?
Good to
Yeah.
hear.
No, not in a good or bad way per se. Because I feel like we live in this society where there's poverty, and you just see a lot of children that might be better off in this centers. So on the one hand, the centers should the state should do a better job in basically getting children that need care and protection or beyond parental control and assisting them with uh, uh, stepping in as a parent temporarily. But on the other hand, these centers, some of them, they're also a bit underfunded. So like when I first came in and I worked with the centers, so the open centers, for example, the children all went to public school. So I remember speaking to the former principal and him saying, this children cannot keep going to public school. We need private school. So it was a transition of, okay, we started paying for 3 children, 5 children. And then over time, there was a lady that started like a free school. So most of them started going there, and then the others, so we could afford to cover everything besides a few of them's education, those sort of things. So those children, to some extent, actually are better off than a lot of children that are still at home and their parents are struggling. So I think if the system is properly and well structured, it would better address the situation at hand. Because, like I said, on the other hand, so children beyond parental control now, obviously they need to be placed there and be um, spoken to and mentored. But children where they're like in need of care and protection, those ones I feel like that one is a different case where I think it will be better handled with the state working with the parents. Do you get? Or your mother can't pay your school fees. Why? Maybe why can't the state just provide better quality education? Do you get? Or sponsor the parents and say, look, you get 20,000 naira per month to go towards your child. We'll monitor it. If you're spending anyhow, then you get in trouble, sort of things. But at least instead of just taking the children out, because I know there's a boy that we is one of those things that is actually one or two of them. And they talk about like, oh, my mommy came to see me last week. So now can you be helping me to give her money so I can go home? And I heard them say, and I was like, can we do that? And the kids say things like that. So I was like, oh, can you be giving my mommy money so I can go back home? Do you get my point? Because he wants to be with his family. So why are they in the centers when the states can work with the parents, assist them, and help them to be able to better care for their children instead of putting them in a system where there's also the trauma, there's also the negative impact of being in an institution versus being in a family environment, which is what is supposed to be promoted. So unless a child has to be in an institution, family environment is always the best if it's a good family environment.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like money shouldn't be the reason why a child isn't with their family. No, if the environment for them is good, they're cared for and they're loved by their family. I have a question. So do you do most of your work in Lagos? And can you speak to kind of how um if the system works the same way in like the more rural areas. So I know that like with cities like Lagos, Abuja, there are probably more opportunities and it's a bit more advanced. And by advanced, I just mean there are more people able to represent children. But in terms of our rural areas where sometimes it seems like nothing, they don't get enough of the resources and the help and care that they need just across every kind of domain. How can you speak to that in terms of the children's care and how in care of the law?
I think most of my experiences in Lagos and with what I've seen, a lot of private institutions and individuals do try to step in as best as possible. But even the state is also doing what it can with the social welfare office and sorry, child welfare Ministry of Youth and Social Welfare Office. They're doing what they can. But I know in other states, it's mostly you hear about orphanages, children are in orphanages. So I don't really hear much about like the children's centers and so I don't know much of all my experience is the Lagos system and centers in Lagos.
So before we kind of wrap up, what's next for the Token Foundation and the CRJJC? Like, what are your next goals that you think milestones you think you need to achieve, or you guys need support on, or whatever, or you're trying to cross certain bridges?
I mean, it's basically continuing the support that we have, and all our support is measured by how much donations we get. So we get the money because we always have requests. A child calls and says, "Well, I need this." We get the money, we pay for it, and we move forward. The more money we get, the more we can increase our impact. Do you
Mhm.
understand? And so, for Tokan Foundation is ensuring that these children are properly provided for. So, like I said, our oldest kids are now in SS3, and we also have a few in GS3. SSA and GSA is like the whole Becky and national exam preparation and payments of fees and all that. So they are like they cost more. So yeah, but we are trying to cover all the expenses and all that. And then, so the more funding we get, the better we can properly assist all these children. Like I mentioned, Lagos State has 5 centers across the state. So the special correctional centers, which are for the children in conflict and in beyond parental control, and then those in need of care, or those who have been released but they don't have family, get to go to this children's correctional centers, which are also separate. So there are all 5 of them. We have a close relationship with all 5 of them. We either provide legal support, educational, and social welfare support to all of them, to be honest. Yes, all of them, not to be all of them. And um, so for TRJJC is we're still going to court for children every month. At least we secured 2 releases, 3 releases this year, I think, 5 last year. So we're still working with the children and providing support. So um, I guess again, financial support will determine how many children we can support. And another thing that CRDDC started last year was we're going to these centers to talk to children about their rights under the law, letting them know that look, this is not how you're supposed to be treated. And the children, they're very intelligent. They'll say, and so when I went to court, somebody said this and this, like, is that right? And I'm like, no. And then he's like, yes, I know it. That you can't call me defendant or you can't say guilty or this and that. And they handcuff me. You know, this kind of thing. Oh, when they took me to police station, they did this. They didn't call my mom. And I was like, no, they have to. So when you talk to children about their rights, they know better. And they know that, okay, look, these are my rights and these are the things that should not be done to me. And they even advise other kids and they're like, look, this is what happens when you do this and when you don't do this. So we call it the Know Your Rights Initiative. So we've done that in all the centers. We've done it 3 times actually. And then we're also moving into communities, speaking to the families with their children, and educating them about the children's rights.
That's actually great. So, how can
Okay.
people support you? How can people support you in terms of the financial funding? Where can they go for that? And then, aside from financial support, how else can people support your the foundation and CRJJC?
Okay, so financially, you can go on our website, it's tokanfoundation.com. So just search for, I think it's how to support. Yeah, how to support. So we have our account numbers and the link. We also have a PayStack link that you can use to donate. That's the only account. That is used for both, because CRWC is our legal services and the Tokan Foundation. So the filing fees for court processes and all those things are done with Tokan Foundation. We don't have a separate account. Everything we got. CRWC is registered. It's just that all donations coming through Tokan Foundation, that's one single thing. Another thing is partnership. So it's interesting because every other day, to be honest, we do get people that reach out, they want to partner with us. So last year, one of our biggest partnerships was with a foundation that donates medicine. So they reached out to us and we let them know that look, we have a relationship with these 5 centers and they committed to providing medicine to each of the centers regularly. I know I got a text from one of them yesterday that the burial center for boys request is ready and we'll go drop it off next week. And I was like, great, you know. So we partner with them. We partner with individuals that just want to figure out what to do and how to help. And then also for CRNC, I guess the easy part is lawyers. A lot of lawyers come out, reach out to me and say, oh, how can they get involved? So they join the Know Your Rights Initiative or they get involved in any of the cases and we just supervise and make sure that look, you're going to put these things, you provide the necessary support. Yeah.
Is it advisable for people who, maybe not lawyers, don't have money, but want to once in a while, you know, provide emotional support or something to
Volunteer,
kids,
yeah.
to just volunteer
Yes.
corn?
Whatever your area. So even if it's drawing, so we've had people that come and say, look, I know how to draw and I want to teach kids. And we'll just be like, we'll connect them with the center. The center's always very open to this. They'll say, look, what day do you want to come by? And even with the Token Foundation, what we've done in the past is, oh, you want to teach them how to draw? All right, so we'll buy the pens, we'll buy the papers, we'll buy this, and we'll set it up and then you show up and help them work with the kids to learn. And they love it, you know. We've had a few tech people that said, look, I want to teach these kids how to do this. And we just like connect them, make sure, okay, look, pick how many children. A few times we've had institutions that want to teach children how to maybe have 3D drawings. We worked with the centers. They said, okay, 5 boys, 5 girls. We pay for the transportation and the lunches. And they went to these places and they learned for like a whole month. You know, so we do work with these people and say, look, even if you can't pay, but you can provide free training or stuff, we'll make sure we get the money to provide transport and feeding for the children.
Yeah. So folks, support can be in any way. It doesn't have to be money or some technical stuff. You could just go
And it's
hang
also people because we've heard a lot, we got a lot of support from somebody saying, "Oh, somebody told us about you." And we're like, "Oh
out.
my god, that's nice."
Yeah.
Yes, and you can also join us when we have like our outreaches because Know Your Rights is every 3 months, so
Okay.
we do put it online. Yeah, so you can also come and join us.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, and you can buy our t-shirts. So we have t-shirts that we made, the Tokan Foundation t-shirt. Art was made by Victoria O'Neilson. So she designed two different paintings. So this is called Mother Provider. So it's actually a picture of me with the boys. We're just sitting and the boys sent a picture of us. So this is me, and then we're just sitting. And
You
then
look
the
like
other one
just
is
one of
called Graduation. I look like this exactly with the hair that's sticking out on the side.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so
Oh,
you can buy our t-shirts also
we're
online. It's
gonna
20,000
we're gonna
naira
put
each.
the the website links and Instagram links
Yeah.
to the.
We'll
Yes.
put everything.
I'll
Yeah.
share
Everything. Yeah.
So
everything.
anyone who's listening can or watching can go in, see how they can support. Nothing obviously is too small, and it can be as diverse as possible. You
Mhm.
can join and
Nothing is too small. I tell people like you send 5K and like a child needs, to pay for something in school and we just transfer it to the teacher to cover it.
and it doesn't have to be financial. You can just go there and go and hang with the kids and chill with them.
Yes, they actually do love it.
So
They do love meeting people. They do
yeah,
love meeting other friends.
I do know that. Anyway,
But you've
Tope,
experienced it now, yeah.
no, I know that. I've been there. Well, Tope, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. This is such a heartfelt emotional episode for me. Um, really, really glad that you agreed to come and do this with us today. Are there any last words before we leave? Okay. Thank you, Tope, again. I really appreciate it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of Three Commerce Podcast. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.